When John got promoted to civil engineer, he stopped to get roses for his wife. He'd been listening to Mother's online seminars about how important it is to make his wife feel divine, so he realized he was going to get her something better than roses. So instead, John drove on and dropped by one of their town's boutiques instead. He walked down each aisle smelling the soaps, running his finger over the leathers, and tried to picture his wife's face as she received each dress he looked over, and he decided nothing he saw was what he wanted. That was until he saw a hairbrush with the gold inlays of geese. The golden egg, he thought as he picked it up and saw his reflection scatter back to him in dozens of metal inlays. It looked enchanted, fit for a fairy tale. It looked vintage, as if someone made it back when quality of craft mattered. It looked glamorous, as if it was fit for a queen. Sauntering over to greet him, the sales worker was cooing before she even reached him about what a special, one-of-a-kind piece he was hold. Flecks of red and blue glinted off it as he reveled at his find. It came from the estate of none other than the real Tippi Hedren. It was given to her by Universal Pictures Studio to commemorate the release of The Birds. John looked it over, turning it to marvel at its beauty. It seemed sensual, romantic, and beautiful, just as Mother had said, and he pictured him brushing his wife's luscious brown curls for her. She'd love that. She'd been sorta worn down after giving birth recently. He'd show her the love she deserved. She'd love the weird, eerie look of the abstracted art. Best of all, it seemed custom fit for his wife, after all, who had a thing for birds and all things Hitchcockian. "I'll take it," John said, nearly leaping from luck and the opportunity of it. It seemed fated, just as Mother had said. When you are on the right path, open to the depths of the universe and attuned to the sensual, things you need will come to you. And her it was. He drove home recalling how he and LaShonda met at the Illinois State University, and how surprised he was she liked fishing as much as him. It was like a dream come true. John laughed as he recalled how geese had chased LaShonda on their first date to a pond near their campus. It was a tainted memory full of joy but also bittersweet sadness. The very next day, LaShonda's dear friend Jelani Day had disappeared, later, mysteriously being pulled from a river with the case never solved. The death had hung with them, his wife crying on the day she finished medical school knowing Jelani should have been graduating beside her with his big smile. They had moved to Peru, Illinois, where Jelani had drowned, when LaShonda had gotten a job offer too good to be true from local hospital after her internship. They'd faced the stench of racism that clung to them from the differences in their skin tones in a small Midwestern town, John pale and LaShonda ebony. It had all been worth it. They'd had their beautiful, perfect son that they named Cherish by the suggestion of Mother. And cherish him they had. And now John was finally moving up into the job he'd gone to school for too. Which is how they'd ended up going to get ice cream to celebrate John's promotion. LaShonda was so happy for him that she scooped the baby up before he could even give her the brush. He'd give it to her after. He patted it as he sat down in its wrapped tissue paper on the foyer table. They'd laughed as baby Cherish took his first nips of ice cream ever. LaShonda holding the cone back for him from the driver's seat and laughing as she watched from the rear-view window as he made the cutest little BRR face. John let down the windows to let the summer breeze through the cracks whisking away all their concerns. They paused to run in the pharmacy for diapers. John would run in and get them. It would give him a chance to get the perfect card to let his wife know what a gem she was to him. The peacefulness of the night was broken only by a small moment. A wild-eyed girl had thrown a bottle of cough syrup at John and condemned him to hell for looking at her pierced face in a funny way. Since he hadn't even looked at her, he ignored her and hurried back to the car to get back to LaShonda and baby Cherish. As soon as he sat down, his joy returned and his hands reached down to shove the plastic bag between his legs to hide the surprise card, tissue and bow from her. John glanced up as they left the parking lot, relieved to leave behind the wild-eyed girl. Their favorite song came on, the one that they fell in love to. Mac Miller Dang and LaShonda turned it up. Their faces awash with joy as they bobbed their heads up and down to the rhythm just as they used to. LaShonda turned to steal a quick smile together with John as they took the straightaway to their home. A dark plump lump suddenly struck their window. Then another. Shit and wings going all over their dash window. John flung the bag down to grab the wheel. LaShonda blindly swerving in an attempt to fling the two geese off to recover their view. But instead an entire flock of them flew through the glass, hitting them by the dozens. Knocking them senseless with wings striking them. Beaks and duck spittles coating every surface of their car till it was piled up like a morgue on D-Day. LaShonda unable to hold the wheel as the pressure of the birds pelted her over and over. The impact killed her, tossing her into the back seat as the car ravined into a ditch with a creak, sideswiping two cars on their way there. Geese and cars flinging like bowling pins. When the car came to a standstill, John was a weeping mess, realizing he was the last man standing. All his good fortune turned to rubble. As he pulled the dead geese from the car, he suddenly realized his fate was like the man in the picture. The one that Mother had warned them causes odd things to start happening if you look at it. He lugged their heavy geese bodies out the door, just as the fishermen had flung about wildly knee-deep in fish like Mother's picture. Each carcass he cussed as he listened for signs that his son was still alive under the biohazard of carnage. By the time he reached his son to pull the last dead bird from his body, he saw the corpse of Cherish smothered and bruised to death by the birds and cussed Mother senseless. He cussed all the people he'd listened to that had swore that picture had improved their lives. He cussed all the good luck he himself had had after seeing the picture as hugged his son's lifeless body as close to his heart as he could. He wailed and cussed the universe as his life turned a wash of red and blue lights. He'd find Mother and kill her.